There are some mantles used just for stealth. There are some mantles that are good for your health. There are some mantles to make Kirin sad. There are some mantles to make Teostra mad. There are some mantles where you go tumbling with glee. There are some mantles where no one can touch me. There are some mantles where you're like, hey you mate! There's mantles. Hello my fellow hunters, today we are going to talk mantles, yes indeed, and the reason we're going to talk mantles is quite simply because I felt like it. Well, that's not completely true. The inspiration was, I was going through my sets and I realised, well, they all have something very much in common, and that is, of course, great sword! No, they have essentially nearly all of them rocksteady and temporal. And I was like, well, that's a little bit of a shame, isn't it? Because there are a lot of mantles, and some of them, most of them, kind of just get put by the wayside. Some of them I can honestly say I've literally never used once at any point in thousands of hours across World and Iceborne. Everyone to the hot springs who's regularly used immunity mantle! Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying here. And I realize as someone who has, let's say, a specialized liking of, well, one weapon, I don't get to use stuff like impact or apothecary or evasion as much, despite how quality they are. But even so, I thought it would be quite nice to explore, well, the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to mantles. So I think on the most part they are a well-meaning but a little bit roughly implemented mechanic, and I realize they've been around, well, since the start, and I guess it's taken me a while to really mull over how I feel about them. You know, just as a person, I have to take my time to decide things. I'm still not sure how I feel about being born. So, I kinda like the idea that you have, well, these specialized tools, that's what they are, to handle niche situations. That you can put on the two that make sense against the monster that you're fighting. But the problem, of course, is that a certain few of the mantles are so good all the time that you really never kind of need to bust out the others. The elemental resistance mantles are a great example. I don't think anything really has been threatening enough to warrant iceproof mantle coming out. Thunderproof mantle has appeared once back when tempered Kirin was the big deal, and I have worn waterproof mantle again fully once for a tempered Namiel, and even then, it was very, very disgusting wearing that goddamn fish's scales for even a few seconds. Not to mention, I don't think I've actually put on Dragonproof Mantle, and that one's the biggest shame, because outside of these not really having threats great enough to warrant them over something like a generic temporal, you have Dragonproof Mantle, which actually powers up your weapon's dragon element, which is a really nice little extra bit that it does for you. Which makes me question why Thunderproof, Waterproof, Iceproof, Fireproof, why don't they power up that respective element on your weapon? Then you could actually make a choice as a, well, elemental weapon user, especially as a speedrunner that wants every single advantage. That would give you a clear, well, damage increase. Not as much as Evasion Mantle, but that can be your second mantle. It seems like there kind of just isn't really a reason for that, and it limits these already niche mantles to an even nicher role. Something like Bandit Mantle, that was used at the start, of course, but now everybody's got more zenny than they know what to do with, so that sort of is there gathering dust. At least from my experience, I realize a few people who are maybe just starting might still get a lot out of Bandit Mantle, but you know what I'm saying, it very quickly drops away. Then you have the really just fun ones, and these are the ones that I think honestly should be the direction that Mantles go in. Because as neat as Rocksteady is, being able to just tank through stuff and destroy the monsters, it kind of takes away a little bit from really the core of the game. It's a little bit powerful, and yes, as you get up to Tempered Elders and when Arch-Tempereds arrive, they do one multi-hit attack and you get absolutely shredded, and you know, that is the downside of using it. But at the same time, it's still fantastic. In Temporal Mantle, especially interacting with the Tenderize system, letting you attach to the monster and just get the Tenderize off without having to worry about being knocked off, and that's just so much less stress and annoyance, and that kind of compounds itself with how, well, the Tenderize system is, but I've done a whole video on that, so let's not get too sidetracked here. The mantles that I absolutely adore then are the Ghillie, the Glider Mantle, and the Challenger Mantle. Because these three offer you a, what the fuck? Well, whole mechanic that isn't found anywhere else. They let you pull the monster where you want it to be. They let you peacefully observe the monster or have a little breather in a fight. They let you constantly glide through the air and have that whole aerial approach, as well as the interactions with ledges and vents and all other some such goodness. They offer you a way of interacting with the world, with the creatures, with the space around you that you can't get from anything else, that you can't replicate in skills like just stacking Thunder Resist if you want yourself the Thunderproof, or, you know, getting Slugger if you want your Impact KO, or getting your Evade window if you want your Evasion Mantle. Yes, that comes with the damage boost, but you get what I'm saying. They are very much unique unto themselves, and that makes them very, very entertaining. And that's how I feel like Mantles should be. When you put the mantle on, for its duration, you are playing in a way to suit the mantle. It almost defines that period of the battle, or at least that period of time. And yes, you could say, well, I've put Fireproof on, so I'm just going to stand in explosions! Or, yes, now that I have Rocksteady on, I'm going to ignore everything! Yeah, okay, technically speaking. But that's not really the same as, oh, I've put the Ghillie Mantle on. Shh, alright, everybody? Just calm down, have a potion, have a drink, have a surprise attack! And that is very, very different and much more impactful. It's not like you put on your lovely KO mantle and now you're like, cool, now use all of the KO stuff. And yes, you do, but you'd be using that anyway if you were using a build that KOs things. It just makes you better at what you already would be doing, which is what skills are supposed to do, not, I think, necessarily mantles. And something like Vitality Mantle is fun, gives you a few hits that you can take a little bit more safely, lets you survive where you otherwise wouldn't, and yeah, sure, survival ones, maybe. They do soften a few monsters, help people get through hunts, but I think the upper end of mantles are too powerful and too universally applicable to any given hunt. You can throw on 2 of Evasion, Rocksteady, and Temporal and just be done. Sure, in certain situations that might not be the most efficient, but let's be honest, if I told you you had to get rid of every mantle but 2, well, I think we know which ones would be most there. In fact, let's test this theory. Cotton! You gotta get rid of every mantle but 2 forever. Which 2 are you keeping?
The Temporal and the Bandit Mantle, because they make me look shiny. Wait, why did I say that?
Okay, well, look, I don't think Cotton's the best sample here. He's too pink for this. Over Assassin's Mantle to run faster. Something that we've never really had. To just fast outside of certain weapon options like Lance Charge, but just generally run fast. Honestly, that's a skill I've wanted them to add for ages. It might be tough to balance, but literally make movement sprint faster, I think would be a lot of fun and open up a lot of options. It wouldn't be the most ridiculous thing. It's not like it ramps up your damage that much. Yeah, it might make it easier to dodge things, but it definitely would be amusing and have some very cool interactions. And honestly, to me, mantles and I guess boosters too. We can include them.
Oh, okay, alright, now you talk about us, that's fine.
Fun. But at the same time, I think Mantles are this game's, well, hunter arts, just in a much more, well, lengthened out, softer way. Because the biggest example is, of course, Temporal Mantle, which is when you get hit, you automatically do the dodge, and even the animation is very, very similar to the evasion dive that was one of the hunter arts, and that kind of is where that connection is made quite strongly. But I think they kind of give you those little bit of, alright, I need this extra edge right now, I'm pressing this or I'm putting this on, but I just think there need to be, is it weird to say more fun? Like, take Glider, as cool as it is. Imagine if they changed that so that when you actually get hit by a monster with a powerful move and you get sent flying through the air, you actually use the mantle to right yourself in the air, start hovering, and then gliding back to the monster, so it can almost mitigate actual knockback. A mantle to mitigate monster knockback as a whole would be really fun, and that would be a unique interaction that you can't get from really anywhere else outside of, I guess, Acrobat, but, you know, that's a very niche skill and a very niche armor piece that most people don't even know about. So I want to see just more, I guess, moment-defining mantles. If it's going to be this big thing, this huge cooldown, you swoop this cloak onto yourself, you have yourself this big, alright, now's the time. I want it to actually define that moment of gameplay. I want it to really kick things up a notch. Like, what about a mantle that when you put it on, your health starts draining slowly and slowly and slowly, like you're bleeding and moving, but in return for that, you gain a huge power spike, so you have to be incredibly careful. And yes, you might argue, well, that's just, you know, hit the monster more, it's not changing it that much, but, you know, you have to be a lot more precise in how you deal damage. You can't keep it on for too long, or if you do, you have to heal, so maybe you could do a whole build around that to out-heal the mantle's drain, and then you get the damage, and, you know, you can actually weave into the mantle and make a whole build surrounding it. You know, like when I made a build surrounding with the Rocksteady, the Immortal. That was fantastic, because that uses the Rocksteady to become much more than it's intended, not just throw it on, wail on the monster, and kind of ignore it and just bulldoze through the fight. Although yes, that might be a subtle distinction to make. What I do want to talk about, though, is actually the aesthetic of the mantles. Am I the only one that doesn't like their character being covered up for huge chunks of time during every hunt? This might be a minor nitpick, but I like to see my character. I like to see what it looks like, and it's not as bad while the actual mantle is on, because yeah, I get it, that's how it needs to be represented, though you could certainly do it in some different ways, that's for sure. But the main thing is, once it runs out, can we just have it auto take it off? Do we need to have the, unless you manually do it, it won't come off by itself until you're out of combat? Is that really that big of a deal? It would make the quality of life of them so much better, because yeah, sure, I forget a lot and I'm like, oh god, I've been wearing bloody graph paper for 2 minutes and it's just ugly. I want to see my character, I want to see the armor, I don't want to have to take it off every single time manually. Oh, it's not fun. I don't think it is, it's just not fun. God, I'd love to know your opinion on that, because I think that's one of the things I don't like. It might be so petty, but I don't like seeing myself in mantles. I don't use them when possible because of that. And I will say, just to bring it back around to the actual boosters again, and the whole, you can be a lot more creative when it comes to these points. You could have a booster that is a smoke cloud booster, a portable spore puff, right? You put it down, the monster loses sight on you, you go stealth, and it's like, ah, crap, where are you? That would be a really fun little way, and something that, again, you can't get from other equipment. Things like that is what I want to see. So yes, while the mantles are interesting, especially now they have slots, and you can do quirky builds that involve having them on as much as possible, while they do offer an element of gameplay that I think is better than not having them, I think they need to be pushed more into the useful, fun, but not overtly powerful more specialized role, as opposed to just when this is up, use it, it is good, that stuff like Apothecary and Temporal and the like actually have going for them. I think there's a lot more to be explored here. I think there's a lot of design space to open up, and I think in the next Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter 6, or whatever it is, we can see some really interesting uses of the Mantle system. I really, really do. I would hope for more skills to interact with it as well, not just tool specialists. Maybe something that amps mantles, and then while you're in the mantle you are at your strongest and the rest of the time is more survival. And I just want more gameplay impact from having them on. I think I want it to be more of a big decision, a big moment, alright, he's going mantle, boys, you know, that kind of thing. But maybe that's just me. Essentially what I want to ask, what I'm throwing at you is, how do you like mantles? Do you hope they return? Do you want them to be the same? Or have you got a few little tweaks you'd like to see yourself? And of course, what are your favorite mantles? You might say Temporal because it makes things easy, and sure it does, but is it really more fun than I'm right next to you, monster, and you can't see me even though we're in the tundra and I'm wearing leaves? Which Gilly does offer. Either way, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you, even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on, and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.